Looks good to me.
Yeah, lovely. Okay. So as I said, this is a briefing for the supporting authorities for the Making Space for Nature project. We have named our local nature recovery strategy for Kent and Medway, Making Space for Nature, just as it gives you a summary of exactly what we're trying to achieve. So why is nature recovery relevant to district and borough council planning? In a county where population growth and housing allocation targets are high, we need to make sure that we direct pressures away from high value and priority habitats to prevent further damage, while also looking at where there are opportunities within the county for recovery. And having a healthy natural environment is hugely important to the health and well-being of the whole county's population. And we want to work with you to enhance and future-proof this. So what makes Kent so special? So there are some statistics here from the Kent Nature Biodiversity Strategy. Just sort of summarises why Kent is so special and so important and why we need to do our bit to support it. There are a number of declining threatened rare species in Kent, and we also have some hugely important habitats. So what are local nature recovery strategies? They're a legal requirement. So they came in the Environment Act 2021, and they will also be spread out across England. So 48 different strategies, no gaps, no overlaps. So we're really covering the whole country. It's a landscape scale approach. It'll also be locally developed by an appointed responsible authority. So for Kent and Medway, that's Kent County Council. And it will be collaboratively developed. So it won't just be created by Kent County Council. We are after everyone's input to make it deliverable and also achievable. So we will agree the local priorities and associated actions for nature recovery and the wider environmental benefits that collectively will deliver a nature recovery network for England, ending the decline of nature and supporting its recovery. So why is this needed? These statistics come from the State of Nature Report 23, and as you can see, we're not in a great position, and we have some work to do to improve the situation. So you can see here the UK species abundance has declined on average by 19% since 1970, and the UK is currently classified as one of the world's most nature depleted countries. So some of those are quite scary. And from a Kent perspective, why is this all needed? You can see from some of these stats, there's a loss of fragmentation, connectivity, population growth are above average rates, 10% of species in Kent are threatened, there's a declining amount of land under management. So we need to do something now, we need to do something ambitious and something big. So having said that, it's not all bad news. Since 2000, there have been a number of big nature recovery wins for Kent. We have seen that where we work and come together, we can achieve some big things. So for example, the otter returning to Kent in 2011. 2013, the first SSSI was declared to protect nightingales. And in 2019, the greater horseshoe bat was rediscovered in Kent. So we've had lots of wins, and we're now hoping for an even bigger win. So how will Making Space for Nature enable nature recovery? It's a spatially framed strategy for nature, focusing action to where it's most needed and or where it will be deliver the greatest benefits. It's a framework for joined up action, developed with those that will be instrumental in its delivery. A set of agreed priorities for nature recovery with measures to deliver this. It's a shared vision for nature recovery and the use of nature-based solutions in Kent and Medway. It's ambitious but realistic and deliverable, which will be linked to supporting mechanisms and finance. So this means that we hope to have a network of wildlife-rich places across the county, restored and a healthy natural environment, a coherent and resilient ecological network, a county which is thriving with wildlife and plants, and a natural landscape that inspires engagement, underpins health and well-being, and supports the economy. We have nature providing solutions to some of the county's societal challenges, and a healthy and resilient agriculture and food security. So how will the LRS deliver this nature recovery? So this will be through local plan making. It will be a statutory role in influencing all tiers of forward planning. It'll also come through biodiversity net gain, so influencing the strategic significance multiplier and the BNG metric, directing gains work to where it will have the most benefits for nature, and deterring losses from high biodiversity value land. Also through ELMS, it's expected to be linked to this and influenced in a new scheme, but how is still to be defined by DEFRA. So through other grants and investment, there'll be other sources of funding which will also incentivise LRS actions. It will put weighting on projects linking to the strategy. Nature-based solutions, linking nature recovery to wider benefits, increasing opportunity for investment and linked funding. It will be a collaborative framework. It will be developed in partnership. The relationships established now will support the delivery of this action. And the spatial framework element of this is targeting action to where it's most needed and will deliver the greatest benefits in this county-wide mapped framework. So as a result, action and investment will be directed to areas of greatest need and benefit, and losses and impacts will be directed away from the most valuable assets. So how does the LNRS fit in? We're regularly asked how this fits into other plans, schemes, strategies, and this is a very confusing slide with a lot of information, and this will be available when we put the presentations up on the website after the briefings, so you can look again at your own leisure. But this gives you an idea as to how this all fits together. It's very complicated, and at this stage there are a lot of unknowns of the process. So what will and won't the LRS do? So it will not draw localized, detailed or definitive boundaries, but it will identify areas that creation or improvement of habitat is likely to provide the greatest. It will not dictate actions or instruct their implementation. Will identify potential measures to support delivery of the priorities. Will not force landowners and managers to make changes, but we will inform opportunities for funding and investment. It will not be developed without your input, but we will actively seek input from all stakeholders. It will not be published without a full public consultation, but we will listen to all views on priorities and areas identified as potentially important. And it will not end in 2025. We'll review, revise and republish this on a regular cycle. So really it's just the beginning. So what will the NRS mean for you, for the supporting authorities? It will have a statutory role in influencing all tiers of forward planning as a planning document. So it's important that the LNRS is compatible with your adopted local plans and vice versa. It will be a functional strategy, a useful tool for influencing and informing local planning and decision making. It will work alongside BNG. It will influence the strategic significance multiplier in the BNG metric, directing gains work to where it will have the most benefits for nature and deterring losses from high biodiversity valued land. And it will direct funding through LNRS actions. So why do we want you to get involved? You all represent our future delivery partners. The LRS will influence and inform future action and associated funding streams and investment. We want to ensure your interests are represented in discussions. You have the on-the-ground knowledge and experience that will enable us to be practical and make it a deliverable strategy alongside being ambitious. Your data will enhance the national data sets. You'll be well informed to build the outcomes and opportunities of the strategy in your own local plans. And we want to ensure that the LNRS is developed in line with district and borough aspirations for nature recovery, green infrastructure, and wider environmental benefits, aligning with your own environmental plans and future ambitions. So this sort of gives you an idea of the areas of stakeholder participation, how we're engaging with people. We've got the project governance by the board, the delivery group, and the supporting authorities group. The technical advisory groups providing skills, guidance, expertise. We have online engagement through surveys and social media, and stakeholder engagement workshops for participation in strategy development. And then also some pop-ups at events, partner networks, and partner meetings and forums. So for this to all happen, a new team has been created within KCC. We have Liz Milne, who is project manager, which I'm sure a lot of you have worked with previously, alongside Chris Drake, who is project officer. We have Alexa, who is landowner officer, so she'll be working with existing advisors, clusters and networks, developing new relationships to facilitate the input of expertise, knowledge and opinions from Kent's landowners, farmers, land managers, and to secure the buy-in and active involvement of this, because it's an important sector for nature recovery action. Myself as the local government officer, so I'm working with the counties, districts, boroughs to ensure that the LNRS works with the local planning system and is well placed to inform local plans and land use decision making. As such, will support the LPAs in being a more proactive partner in the recovery of nature and meeting their requirements of the biodiversity duty. We feel it's important that the coastal marine element is included in our LNRS as we are a coastal county. So we have Louise, who is designing an approach for the integration of the marine environment into the LNRS. And she'll be working with the coastal and marine stakeholders to identify priorities and actions for marine nature recovery. And then we also have Catty, who is on part-time secondment from the South East Rivers Trust, who will be establishing partnerships, networks and groups to develop new relationships to identify priorities and actions for rivers and other freshwater habitats. We also have a dedicated Natural England Local Nature Recovery Strategy Senior Advisor, who is Karen. And we also have some other officers, dedicated officers from the Environment Agency and Forestry Commission to help us on this journey. So how are we going to achieve all this? Step one, we are mapping areas that are of particular importance for biodiversity. We'll then move on to mapping areas where action for nature recovery has already been taken. We'll then describe the strategy areas and its biodiversity and opportunities for recovery, including an LNRS species long list. We'll then agree LNRS priorities and identify potential measures, including the LNRS species priorities list as a defined list. And then we'll map areas that become of particular importance for biodiversity. So all of this creates the local habitat map and the statement of biodiversity priorities, which in turn will create this local nature recovery strategy. So throughout this whole process, there are some golden threads, running themes that we are going to make sure that are included throughout. So that's contribution to wider environmental goals, the opportunities to deliver additional benefits through what we're doing, the use of nature-based solutions, climate change, the how we can mitigate and adapt to it, but also the impacts it's having, its deliverability and financing. So the project programme, we do have slides with more detail on for each of these stages, which I can share if we have any questions later that want to go into those in more depth. But just as a sort of summary, you can see the project started in October, which is when we had our launch, and it's expected to be publicated in May 25. So we have a short amount of time to do all of this work. But step one involves understanding what we already have in terms of biodiversity assets. So this will create the areas of particular importance for biodiversity map. So that'll be our core areas. Step two will understand what has already been done. So where we come to identify new action, and we can build on and extend previous gains. Step three is a written assessment of Kent and Medway, its biodiversity and the challenges and opportunities that exist for nature recovery. Step four, identifying what outcomes we want for nature and what actions are needed to achieve these. So priorities will focus on habitats and species, but through the actions we will look to achieve wider benefits. And step five is identifying where in the county these actions should be focused to deliver greatest benefits to nature, but also deliver MBS to tackle some of our wider environmental goals. This will create the areas that could become of particular importance for biodiversity. So these will be the opportunity areas. And then we move on to the consultation and publication. So that's a long process, but by that point we will be quite confident that we have involved all possible stakeholders. So we know we've created something that should come out quite well at consultation. So how can you influence the LNRS? The engagement in terms of sort of active engagement will be through workshops, surveys, and for the sporting authorities will be sort of direct meetings with myself. But if you want to influence why, so to identify what the key issues are that the LRS needs to address and the opportunities it needs to realise, you can come to the workshops. So workshop one, the morning session, will look at pressures, threats, challenges and opportunities. If you want to influence the what, you can identify what outcomes the county would like to see for nature, so a sort of wish list informed by threats and opportunities. That'll be in workshop one in the afternoon, so that's creating a priorities long list. A priorities shortlist will then be created in workshop two, and that will focus attention and resources on prioritised outcomes to deliver greatest benefits. If you want to influence how, the actions needed to deliver the shortlist outcomes, the activities that attention and resources will be directed to, that'll be through mapping and our second workshop with potential measures. And if you want to influence where, the areas where effort and resources should be concentrated to restore habitat to achieve the most for biodiversity and the wider environment, that'll be through mapping areas that could become of particular importance for biodiversity. So online mapping tool. And workshop three. We also, if you aren't able to join us in these workshops, although we really hope that the majority will be able to, we also have online surveys. So we take a lot of your input from answering those surveys too. So the first round of workshops, they're the end of January and through February. There are 5 of them spread across the county for accessibility. There are still tickets available for these, so please visit the website to join up. You can access the link from the website, but also if you're looking at this presentation after it's been uploaded, there's a link on screen. So as I've said, this workshop will look at the pressures, challenges, opportunities that there are. And then we'll be looking at the outcomes and results in respect of nature recovery, which should be considered as part of the LNRS ambitions. Ideally, we would love to see attendance by all relevant disciplines, so planning, green infrastructure, access, biodiversity, trees, climate change, but whoever's available would be fantastic, and the more the better. So just as an overall, our ask of you for future dates, January to February, as I said, the workshops, but also we have a survey going out. February to March, we'll be mapping current nature recovery action via an online tool. April and May, the LNRS priorities and potential measures, workshops and surveys. That'll be the second round of workshops. May to June, mapping future nature recovery action via the online tool. And then September, opportunities areas workshops, so workshops 3, and a survey. So there are additional ways to get involved. Linking the LPA's social media and other comms channels with the projects and help to promote the project locally. Inputting to the technical advisory group. These are the data evidence and mapping, species recovery, landowners, engagement and communications, if you have those sorts of expertise. Or be part of the landowner advice network. So this would be particularly welcome if, as an LPA, you have considerable contact with landowners and can help support the project efforts to engage with this sector. So the Supporting Authority local plan reviews. I'm currently compiling relevant policies and other related targets from the county's local plans and other strategic documents. These policies may either relate directly to nature recovery or could be assisted by it. And I'm also gathering spatial data sets. So if you have the capacity to assist, that'd be fantastic. There are a lot of districts to cover, so I can send over an information template to fill in. Also be able to provide me with GIS data sets as shape files, be super useful. And once the information is compiled, we'll need to visit each district to check and ensure that the local plan policies are correctly reflected in what I'm doing and that nothing is missing. And then I'll be having meetings with each district to discuss and review this. So in summary, Making Space for Nature will create a spatially framed strategy for nature, focusing action to where it's most needed and or where it will deliver the greatest benefits. It will direct action and investment to areas of greatest need and benefit. It will direct losses and impacts away from our most valuable natural assets. And it will deliver a coherent and resilient ecological network of wildlife-rich places across Kent and Medway, resulting in a county thriving with wildlife and plants. So for more information after this briefing, to keep up to date with the project, to register your interest, please visit the website. If you need to get in contact with us, there's also email address on the screen there. So I appreciate this is all a lot of information, so feel free to contact us afterwards. But if anyone has any questions for Liz and myself, we'll be here to answer them.
Awesome.
Stop sharing.